History of Sudan Wars. Sudanese Civil Wars. 2 wars fought since the independence of Sudan in 1956. There have been 2 prolonged civil wars in Sudan since independence in 1956. The first lasted from August 1955 to March 1972, and the second began in May 1983. Although both wars have been fought largely in the southern third of the country, their aims have diverged. The first aimed at independence, or at least autonomy for the South, whereas the second primarily aimed at restructuring the central political institutions and devolving power on marginalized areas. Secession is the fallback position should restructuring fail. The background for the wars lay in the tension between North and South Sudan, the former largely Arabic-speaking and Muslim and the latter home to diverse African peoples who adhered to traditional religions, or converted to Christianity. Southern peoples had resisted Turco-Egyptian and Mahdist slave raids in the 19th century. The British did not manage to subdue them until the 1920s. Britain then imposed the Closed Districts Act, 1925, and other measures that banned northern traders and Muslim preachers from the south and even banned Arab-style dress, and the use of the Arabic language in government offices and schools. Britain failed to promote education and economic development in the south, leaving it far behind the north when the 2 parts were merged at independence under a centralized system that placed power in the hands of northerners. Many southerners felt that they had not gained independence but had, instead, exchanged one foreign ruler for another. First Civil War, 1955 to 1972. The First Civil War was triggered by the Torrit Mutiny, August 1955, of the Southern Defense Force and was heightened by the northern politicians' rejection of federalism. Under the parliamentary system, 1956 to 1958, the South was marginalized politically. Under the military rule of General Ibrahim Abud, 1958 to 1964, the religious and ethnic norms that predominate in the North were imposed on the South. Arabic became the language of government and education, Islam was promoted and Christianity repressed, and increasingly harsh military means were used to quell the revolt. The return to civilian rule in late 1964 did not, in itself, end the conflict. Although the Roundtable Conference of March 1965 examined Southern grievances, the ruling Northern political parties still sought to establish an Islamic state, which was anathema to Southerners and Northern secularists. Only after Mohammad Jafar Numeri seized power in May 1969 was an effort made to recognize the inherent ethnic and religious diversity in Sudan and negotiate with the Anyanya rebels. The Addis Ababa Accord of February 27, 1972, which ended the First War, was implemented through the Regional Self-Government Act for the Southern Provinces, promulgated on March 3, 1972, and incorporated into the Permanent Constitution of 1973. The 3 southern provinces became one large region with its own regional assembly and High Executive Council, HEC. The South gained considerable autonomy in the social and economic fields. Religious discrimination was prohibited, and English was recognized as the principal language in the South because it had been the common language used in schools. Efforts were made to reintegrate the refugees who had fled the country during the 17 years of fighting and to absorb the Anyanya into the regular armed forces. Despite constitutional safeguards against altering provisions of the Addis Ababa Accord, Numeri interfered continually in the implementation of the accord. At times, he dissolved the Regional Assembly, dismissed the HEC, and tried to prevent potential oil revenue from accruing to the South. Finally, he decreed on June 5, 1983 the redivision of the South into its 3 original provinces. That illegal action completed the dismemberment of the accord. By then, members of the absorbed Anyanya forces had engaged in sporadic mutinies, culminating in mutinies in Bor and Piber in spring 1983. When Numeri sent troops to crush the mutineers, they fled to the bush, where they were joined by Colonel John Garang de Mabior, head of the Army Research Center in Khartoum.